What About Vietnam? A podcast with Carrie Newsom. The series where Carrie talks with travellers about their experiences and adventures. Find out more about Vietnam from the people who have actually been there.
What about Vietnam?
Whether it's adventure, exploring the culture and cuisine, shopping, or just soaking up the sun. Let Carrie and her travellers pave the way for a magical holiday in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?
Xin chào and welcome to What About Vietnam. Today we're going to be continuing with the series with Thomas Levine, and I hope you're enjoying it. We've really learned a little bit more about Vietnam, and I think some of the attributes of the country that I guess make it so exciting for people who love to take pictures, and certainly learning with Thomas how to keep our eye in the right place and use the camera to its best ability is really going to make those pics extra special. So today is part 2 of this series. There's actually going to be 3 parts, and I'm going to be talking to another guest in part 3 about drone photography. So I hope you'll stay tuned for part 3 in this photographic series. But today we are back with Thomas Levine, and we're going to be continuing the series with him and all of his extra tips. Let's be joined again with Thomas Levine. But let's just jump right back in where we pick up talking about colour and the importance or the role it plays in our photography.
Blue, the sky, the water, you relate to blue in that way. But it's also a very moody color. It's relaxing. It's a deep thing. It's moody. Colors have meanings. So green and blue are usually something that are relaxing to people. So when they see the ocean, they see the sky, a blue sky, they think, oh, this is nice. And so that kind of gives you an overall feeling for the picture. But you want to, depending on what your subject is, if it's a boat or so, it gets into space. The space is another element. And like I was talking about the yellow with the red, that's a space thing too. The whole space is yellow except for that person with the red. And so your eye automatically goes because of the space. And really, whatever that subject you have is the space, it's a smaller space, and you want everything to support that. And I'm talking like it's very subjective. And when you take a picture too, you think, oh, this is a great picture. And you have this memory of this place, but you're not being objective because you know what it's like there. The picture will never be what it's like there. You can come up with a great picture, a piece of art, but when you relate it to what it's like when you were there, it doesn't really work. Okay. And that's just the way it is. Maybe the picture's great and it looks better than sometimes the pictures look better than when you were there, but your memory is filling in the blank. Then you show this picture to somebody else and they go, what is that? You know what it is because you were there. But when somebody else sees it, they don't know what it is. So a lot of times I'll take a picture of something and I want a piece of, if somebody's got their hands or their shoulder in the picture, I know there's a person there. You don't always have to show the whole person or the whole thing. What if it's a car or whatever? You just have to have an idea, give them an idea of what it is. Because when they see that, then, they're like, oh, okay, it gets some realism into the picture. Yeah, I like pictures of people in a lot of these. It just takes the element of boring out of it. Because really, it's all about people, especially in Vietnam. It's a culture shock for some people here.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of different cultures here because there's a lot of different things. like when you go in the Northfield, there's all these different villages and they speak different
And minority
languages. Yeah.
groups. Yeah.
But the clothing is incredible, the colors. And sometimes it's hard to take a bad picture of that. But again, it depends on your lighting too. Lighting is an element of art. I think lighting is so important. And that will dictate your colors too. If it's low light, your red's not going to look red. It's not going to look bright red. It changes tones. It changes hue. Your green depends on what time of day it is. It might look real green and might not look green because of the sun. So the thing is, when you're there and you're looking at it with your eye makes these adjustments and you think you know what it looks like. And so that's what you see. But the camera is going to be a different story. It's going to see what it's going to see.
Correct.
Okay?
Yeah. And I get overly disappointed about that scenario when you're looking at these green mountains and they're just rolling in front of you and you go, oh, this has got to be a great time to take that photo. And yet when you take that photo, that depth of color is just not there because, as you say, the sun in some way has put a film over it so that real vigorous green is taken away, is depleted. But I also take your point about people. I get so crazily mad with my husband when he takes 100 of these photos in the hills and from all these vantage points. Then he goes to tell and show people when he comes back and goes, oh, we walked around here and it's just boring, all these photos. Look, you could have been in the Highlands of Scotland for all they knew because there's just no differentiation. It doesn't click. It doesn't have relativity. And I think that contrast, that's why your story about the red and the yellow, the conical hat that got the focus.
The conical hat is one of the best things to photograph here.
Oh,
it tells the story right there.
It's a giveaway for sure.
And it's the form of it. And what they use it for, because it keeps the sun off of them. It keeps, when it rains, it keeps the water off their face. And actually it's got a breathing element to it too. So you don't get as hot. Whoever came up with that, it must have been centuries ago. I don't know, but it was a great invention.
Genius. Yeah. Absolutely genius. Yeah. I think speaking to the contrast, I'm always big in trying to get colors that contrast one another instead of, for want of a better word, same. Because if you're in too much red and too much red is taking, nothing gets the focal point. But if you've got that red against a blue background, or you've got the red lanterns of Hoi An against the Tubon River, you've got that contrast.
Right. Dark and light is a lot of it. It's not even just the colors. It's also the dark and the light. So if you have that blue and you got the red, blue is kind of darker. So that's a one way to think about it. Don't think just about the color. It's also about dark and light. And that's the contrast. Sometimes you can have a low contrast image because it wasn't really sunny or anything like that. But if you got some different colors going on in there and it's contrasting, that's a contrast of color. And if you don't have the light, but you got the color, sometimes you don't need the light like that, like you really want it to. Okay. When you do edit, because even if you take a picture on an iPhone or a regular smartphone, you can change the hue on it. And that, like the green, you can change it a little bit and it'll turn things more green. But the problem is if you overdo it, it'll turn everything green. So it's just a slight change. And to me, I like green. I want to see, it's like green also has this other thing with plants. The older the leaves, the darker the green. The new part of it is brighter. We like the brighter because it's new for some reason. So that's how I like to look at it. And like I said, your eye is making these adjustments and you don't notice it. The camera doesn't. So if you can change it when you edit it, then you're compensating for that camera. So it's not really changing it to where it's for the sake of change. You're changing it for a reason because you're high. That's the way you see it. And that's the way I like to make a picture, is the way I see it. And you develop that vision. That's the whole thing. You're developing your vision for the camera to be able to take a picture. And that's really what it's about, is seeing. Because when you start learning more about photography, you start seeing different. You start seeing the light different. Everything turns. You can take I could take a picture of an orange one time, and then it wasn't great. It wasn't. It's just an orange. It was hanging in Florida. It was hanging down the tree, but the light hit it just perfect, and it changes the entire orange because it was a low light. It was morning. And that contrast with the side light, and it had fill from the tree, so it wasn't dark on one side. It was darker, but it wasn't too dark on one side. And the light will make a picture. There's a lot of things you can do with photography, but you have to play with it.
Yes. And I think the playing with it is a little bit of a challenge for everyone. Because I know when you're traveling, you're sometimes on a bit of a timetable and you've got to either get back on the bus because the bus is leaving, or you're with a group and you may be with a partner that's, dare I say, not so patient in you wanting to take. I can vouch for that permanently. But if you're traveling with somebody who is looking to achieve similar photography of a quality that you want to be able to share later or put on your Instagram account or do whatever, it does make a big difference because you have them to chat with and say, are you seeing that? Because it's another set of eyes, isn't it?
It is. I was going to talk a little bit about Ninh Binh.
Okay, let's talk about some destinations. Yes, Ninh Binh. Beautiful place.
The biggest problem I had, and it's because I had a problem with my camera, but it made me realize that everybody has this problem if you don't think about it. And it's common sense. But when you get on these tour boats, especially with the Tamcock, they row with their feet. So they have a power to it. And it's right in the beginning when they push, you feel that push. Okay. If you're trying to take a picture and that thing's moving, then you have to have a faster shutter speed. But you also have to be able to time when you have the shutter go off. So the best is like an athletic event. When somebody's playing tennis and they throw the ball up, you want it where the ball is at the peak. And so it's staying in the air before it drops. And that's when you want to take a picture. It's the same thing with the rowboat. When they're rowing and you feel that push, get ready to take a picture, because as soon as he is ready or she is ready to pull the oars back out of the water, that you have a little pause. And that's when you take your picture because it's a lot more stable. And it also comes down to when you go on these boats, get in the front if you can, because that's your best pictures.
Okay, there's some tips.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. It's like, I don't think about that stuff because I just do it. This is travel, and not everybody takes pictures like I do. I go crazy with the camera. So you have to be able to compensate and be able to come up with a good picture and time it just so it's right. Because if you see somebody in another boat coming towards you, you are moving, they are moving. Okay. This comes down to shutter speed. So you want to be able to do it when you're at that pause, but they're still moving. So you can't say, hey, stop your boat. I want to take a picture. That's not going to work.
How do you do that on your phone?
Most of the time, I don't think there's too much of a problem because they're not going that fast. But again, you can get an app that will set the shutter speed for you. You can select a faster shutter speed. Because you want like if you have a regular camera, it's 2/50th of a second or it's something like that. You want a little faster. And sometimes maybe you don't want them still. Maybe you want them to show a little motion and not be sharp because they're moving. It depends on what you want. Okay. So you have to try it both ways.
And when you're over water, what's your thoughts on reflections? And there's some really great reflective pictures that I've seen, also some you've done. Talk to us a little bit about capturing reflection.
Okay. I call it highlights because highlights, something that's reflective, like the water, your eye is going to go to the white part of the picture. Okay. And if you have a highlight and the sun's coming in, your eye's going to automatically go to that light. Okay. So highlights are good. But if you have too much highlight, then you're going to have a problem with white going into your lens, and then it'll make it softer picture. Again, it'll look like you're not focused or something like that. But it's hard to not have a thing to refer it to here. But there's also something called a polarizer. If you have a regular camera and you want to see into the water, if the sun is at a 90-degree angle to the water, you can twist this polarizer and it'll actually take most of the reflection out. So you might turn it dark and into the water. But the thing is, some people turn that thing where it's black. And I like highlights to a certain extent. So I think it's good to have some highlight because it's more natural than if it just goes black and you look into the water.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
Because I used to do it the other way too. I used to turn it so far that it would take out all the highlights, but I didn't really understand lighting back then. But highlighting is a good thing to have in your picture, as long as you control it and it doesn't get into your lens. Because the light scatters as soon as the light comes down. If you have a subject, okay, what a color or a car or something, it's going to it's going to absorb light and also reflect light. It depends on whether it's the texture, the color, that kind of thing. So if you have light coming in to hit that thing, the subject, it could really be a great picture or it might not be a good picture. It depends on how you want to show this up.
You may see at the beginning of the show notes in the podcast channel that you're listening from some words that say text me a message. It's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I love hearing from you. And whether that's your thoughts on the episodes, some questions, messages of appreciation, I just love the feedback. It's really great. However, I feel it remiss of me to not thank you for them, but to not be able to respond directly to you. So if you have sent me a question, and I've got lots, and you haven't heard from me, there's a really good reason why. I actually don't have the ability in the technology to respond to you. They kind of expect that you would or I would answer the questions in the form of a show. And there's just kind of too many, and I just think it's just too personal not to do it that way. So I wanted to alert you to the fact that if you do send me a message through that connection option, I'm not going to be able to respond to you directly. So if you do have a question, and it is time sensitive, or you want to send me any kind of message, can I suggest the following two ways? One, send me an email to whataboutvietnam@gmail.com. That is the email address that I have the most constant access to, and I will aim to get back to you ASAP. Secondly, if you go to the website for the podcast, which is whataboutvietnam.com, if you scroll right to the bottom, there is a chance for you to leave a voice message. Now, in that voice message, I can respond to you
equally with a response in voice. So if you want a quick response, that's your next best way. But I just wanted to get this into the show, make you aware of this, as it really is becoming problematic. And I've just got too many, and I can't kind of go naming people and answering each question. That's just a little bit silly. So if you have sent me a text message before and you're waiting on a message back as a response, I'm so sorry. I cannot do that. But if you want to send the question again, I'd be more than happy to answer. Is there anything else you want to cover off for Ninbin before we move on to another location?
Let's see. Ninbin was just, I love Ninbin.
Me
and
too.
I would go back in a second. I'm thinking about going back. But there's a lot of hiking. You can take a boat rides into the backcountry there. And there's hiking up that mountain. And you have a great view from up there. It's just a beautiful area. And you get up there and you see the rice paddies on one side and the river on the other side. And the rice paddies are always interesting to me because you have some of the animals, their work animals out there. And it's an interesting scene. But if you just take a picture of a rice paddy and there's nothing going on, it's boring. You want something going on.
Yeah.
And that's why I say with people or animals, that kind of thing. And if they're really way far in the distance, sometimes I don't even take a picture, but it depends. I'm taking a picture for the different reason. If you take some pictures that are boring, that's okay, because this is a memory to you. You're traveling and you want to show what it looks like. It doesn't always have to look like so interesting. It doesn't have to, every picture doesn't have to be a great picture. You want some good pictures, but you also want pictures of what it's really like. Okay. That's my view.
I've always felt the photos that I've taken that I've loved the most have been when the farmer is in the fields, and because it's such back-breaking work that they do, they are bent over. So sometimes you can get a capture of that, their process of farming, and the hats appearing in the rice paddies looking like that there's not even a body attached to them, that they're just a row of hats because they're bent over. And if you get that contrast right, I've found that interesting. And just, it's probably a good segue into talk about capturing photos with people, and maybe speak to us a little bit about getting people's permission where it's necessary or appropriate, and how best to do it versus where it's a little bit freer and easier and you can take that liberty.
Well, let me first say that you don't always have to take a picture of the person's face. Like you said, if they're working in the field,
Correct.
There's such a thing as body language. Body language tells you a lot about what's going on in the scene. Okay. So if they're bent over, they're working, okay, that's fine. That's no problem. It's also nice to have a picture of a face, but a lot of these people, they don't like their picture taken. And a lot of times I'll take a picture, but they won't know it. And they'll see me. But when I first started to take pictures, I'll actually point the camera in a different direction. I'll keep an eye on what they're doing. And then I might take different pictures. And then one of them might be of them that they don't even notice anymore because I'm standing there. I was standing there looking a different direction. So that's one way. But the view of a lot of people is if they're out in the open area, it's game is on. You can take a picture. They may not like it.
You can have that
Yeah,
liberty.
you can have that liberty,
Yes.
but in some areas, they might have a rule. You can't take pictures. So you have to be careful where you're at. Like in Hoi An, a lot of times they don't like your picture. They don't like it when you like at the market. They don't like to have their pictures taken. But when I went to some of the other markets in some of the other cities, they loved it. So it just depends on where you're at. So also, like, I'll point the camera and they'll see me, and then I'll kind of yes or no. I'm looking at them, and they'll tell me whether they want the picture, if it's okay, or that
Yes.
And sometimes they look at me and then they'll raise their two fingers up, that kind of thing. That's okay, but that's not what I'm looking for.
Yes,
like
sure.
Yeah.
But you can do that with sign language, can't you?
Yeah,
Almost.
you can.
You can point your camera.
I'm not close enough.
You don't have to speak Vietnamese to get it.
And I'll point at my lens and they'll say, yeah or no. They know what I'm talking about.
And I know I've spoken to Etienne Bissot, who I think you know, in Hoi An, and he's very much dead against paying people to take photos.
I am too. And it gets to be where they pose. And I don't really like it when they pose too much. I like to pose them.
No, but they think they should. You know?
Yeah. I want them in their natural. I like casual. You get some great expressions if they don't know. I'm interested in what people are doing. I took a picture of a couple. They didn't know I was there. And the guy's got his mouth full of food, but she's enjoying it, and she's looking at him while he's enjoying it. I like something going on in the picture, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but sorry.
Do we want to move on to another place like Dalat?
Okay. Dalat is known for, it's very hilly. The architecture is, a lot of it's French colonial, so I like to take pictures of some of the buildings. And they have that monastery, if you take the cable car. So I took the cable car one time, and actually before I took the cable car, they have an overlook. You could see the whole city. And so you can actually take a landscape picture of the city before you even get on the cable car. And then when you get on the cable car, I like taking pictures through the window. And you can see the treetops, you can see some farming. There's a lot of stuff going on. I like taking pictures of the cable cars coming at you, because you can take pictures of the people in there and you can see they're looking at you, they're taking pictures or whatever. And then when you get there, there's tons of flowers there that you can take pictures of. The monastery actually, I think I went in there, but I didn't take pictures. Maybe they don't allow it. I can't remember. But it's very interesting. And again, they have markets too in Dalat. So they have.
Oh, they have the biggest strawberries I've ever seen. They do jams, which is an unusual thing for Vietnam. It's the only place I've actually seen where they preserve the fruits, etc., and turn them into these beautiful, tasty jams. But the strawberries were like the size of apples. They were huge. And the color was so rich red, getting back to red. But just, as you say, the markets were totally different. And they have another flower called the Everlasting. Did you come across that?
I probably did, but I don't know the name. I didn't know the name.
There's actually a flower that never dies. And they call them the Everlasting. And they sell them in posies, and they can make them ornamentally so, even though they're fresh flowers, because they never die. It's freaky, really freaky. I thought someone was having me on at the time, but then I learnt later that it actually is quite true. They're called everlastings. So they're these very small photos, very small buds. I'll send you a photo of the ones, and you'll go, "Oh, Kerry, you could have done better if I was there."
So as long as I don't have to analyze it, that's fine.
No, don't. No, but they just to prove that there is.
You know what else they have there, which I haven't seen since California, is artichokes. They grow artichokes in Dalat. They're pricey.
Yes, they do,
but they sure are good.
And did you get up into some of the waterfalls? That's where I had a really interesting experience trying to get that photography right. I have to admit to everyone that I failed, but those waterfalls are just lovely. The Pongor waterfalls were the ones I spent the most time.
And you probably got there during midday, which the light's not the greatest.
Yeah.
Because by the time you travel some of these places, it's not morning anymore.
Correct.
You have to get really early to get some great photos of some areas. And people, when they're traveling, they just don't want to do that. I don't blame them. I had a doctor friend he was really into photography. He'd take this picture and it was okay. And then they go back to their hotel. And then his wife didn't want to go. He'd get up at 4:00 and he'd go back to the same location and take that picture again. And his pictures were great, but he went way out of his way back to the same place to take the picture. And like I said, his wife was not interested in it whatsoever. But he had some really nice.
Yes.
So going back to a place is possible, but it's not convenient.
And interesting, do you find in Vietnam with some cities, see, when I think of colour, I think of Dalat and the colour purple, because around the lake is lots of purple. Do you recall that?
I recall that, but I guess it's because I've been looking at so much yellow lately. I think of yellow because of those.
But see, yellow to me is associated with Hoi An because of a lot of their buildings and the shop houses, etc., have got that yellow walls to them. And it's quite well known.
Yeah.
But I think Dalat is purple. I don't know. What city would we call as red? Would that be Hanoi, maybe?
Yeah, there's a lot of. I just think of red and I see those lanterns, which are in Hoi An, and I just looked at one I took a picture of in Hanoi. They're all over the place. They're not as prevalent in Hanoi as they are here. In Hoi An, it's a photographer's paradise. It
is. Color everywhere.
Well, you have the ocean, you have the beach, you have the rice fields, which actually make pretty good pictures too. And then, of course, you have in town, and you have some of the popular locations. You can get on a boat. You can rent a boat, and they could take you on a tour and take pictures. You can get some great pictures that way. And actually, I've stood from shore and take pictures of these boats, and they're taking a picture of me at the same time I'm taking a picture of them. So it's a little strange.
Yeah, and you've got that twilight, haven't you, on the river, which is outstanding.
Yeah, you get some great lighting here. And then when you're in Old Town and that bridge and the lighting goes down, the sunsets, and the light hits it just right, and you got the boats going underneath, they make some great pictures from shore.
And it's happy hour.
Yeah, it's happy hour.
Yeah.
And you're not in the crowd because you're standing on the bank.
Exactly.
But it does get crowded.
It's my favorite time of the day.
It does get crowded here.
It does.
But at the same time, you have a lot of areas that aren't crowded. Like I said, the beach and the rice fields. Because if you want to take a walk or you want to take a bike ride, rice fields are great.
So we've covered a little bit on Ninh Binh, a little bit on Dalat. Do you want to speak to everyone about Hanoi? What would you be looking for in Hanoi?
Hanoi, street photography. People, there's just the street vendors with flowers or selling fruit. They have their bicycles loaded down with, there's a guy, he has conical hats. He has all kinds of hats, and he carries that on the bicycle and walks it around. So you could stand on the sidewalk and just pick a place that's busy, and you can take pictures of people going by. And that's one of my favorite things to do. But like we were talking about space, if you're looking down the street and you have tons of traffic where it's just traffic all the way across your front, okay? There's not too much of a picture there sometimes, unless it's for color or something like that. But it's too busy, you know what I mean? So one of my favorite pictures is looking down in the middle of the street, okay? So if it opens up, which it will open up, you can see down into the middle, and you can see some stuff going on down the street. And then you have people on the right and people on the left on their motorbikes. And it makes an interesting picture. And I've got a guy that's carrying some piece of glass or something. He's way down in the middle. You want it takes your eye automatically. It's a line. Even though it's not a line, it's a line. Because you have people on the right, people on the left. It's a border. It's a frame that you're going down the middle. And in the middle, you got something else going on in there. You want somebody to look inside your picture because that's where the stuff's going on. But you got to have an avenue. You got to have an alley for your eye to go into.
Good thinking.
Also, they had...
Because I mostly take the lake.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so pretty.
Yeah, there's flowers around the lake. Sometimes I took a picture of some flowers and then, well, these are nice flowers. And then I actually moved the camera when I took the next picture so that the flowers are blurry. So it looks like they're blowing in the wind. You have to experiment to get it right. But it's a beautiful lake, and they have that circle with people. If you want to take portrait, you can put people around that circle with the fountain. I think it's a fountain. And that's a nice picture.
And you got the red bridge.
Yeah. When I was there, they were painting it, unfortunately. But yeah, the red bridge really sticks out. It's great.
It's iconic.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there another city you'd like to talk about?
I went down to the Mekong. That's interesting. And when you go onto the floating markets, that's an interesting picture. You get up like 4 a.m. and you get the sun coming.
Yeah.
Now, I had the sun in my lens a lot of times, so a lot of pictures just didn't come out that great because it was just a really bright sun. And I was in a boat, so I couldn't say go. I was at a tour, so I couldn't say go left or go right. But if you get your own boat and you hire a tour person and you don't have any other passengers, they'll take you wherever you want to go. But you get people working. It's interesting because they have these big boats and they're full of fruit, and you got other people buying their fruit on their boats, and they stick these poles up in the air with whatever fruit they're selling. And I took a picture of the person that was operating my boat. She saw I was taking a picture. So what does she do? She poses for the camera. I didn't really want that. So I took a few like that. And then I had to wait until she was actually busy. And then I took the picture. And that's the picture that I liked because it was casual. She was busy. She was doing her job. And that's what I liked. But she was posing. As soon as she knew I was taking the picture right before that, she posed for it. Maybe you want that. So I like having some of those too. It's good to have different stuff because when you're showing different people or you're showing the one person, all these different pictures, you don't want your stuff boring. Like I said, if you have somebody standing right smack in the middle of the frame on every picture, it's boring. So you want to have them show they're the guide and they're showing you the area. They can have their arms out. They can have a statue and leaning on the statue. There's all sorts of things you could do when you have a travel buddy. So that makes it fun.
Absolutely.
That's really what the name of the game is when you're traveling, is having fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. And capturing as many great memories as you possibly can. Oh, yeah. You're not always going to get the perfect circumstance, but certainly I think photography plays such a big role in preserving those memories for people long beyond and trying to explain it to other people when you get home. I know when I get home and I say, I went to such and such, and I'll show people women dressed in their owl's eyes or the schoolgirls riding their bicycles home from school and they're all dressed in white owl's eyes because that's what they wear to school. Can't believe that in this day and age that, the Vietnamese hold very strong sentimentality, I guess, towards their traditions, which I think is fabulous, and wear their owl's eyes with pride. And it's not staged. It's not just for,
it's a culture.
Tourism. It's the culture that is preserved. Yeah. So taking photos of that, I think, is also very lovely.
For instance, when I was having dinner with my friend, and we were inside, and we were talking about some old times, and he broke out in laughter what we were talking about. And that's when I took the picture. And he had lost it. He was laughing so hard. I took the picture, and it was preserved. It was perfect. That's what you want to do.
Because you never get that time back again. That's what I stress with people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just, you're taking a snapshot in time, although I don't like the word snapshot. You're really making pictures. When you take the time to take a picture and you're trying to line things up, you're thinking about it, you're making a picture, not just taking a picture.
Yes, and that's where the art comes into it.
And the more you know about it, sometimes if you don't know about it, too, I think a lot of it's aesthetic, but there are principles and there's rules of photography. But my biggest thing is it's okay to break the rule because there's really no rule. You can make up your own rules if you want. Now, whether somebody else likes it or not is the next question. But if you like,
Yeah. And purpose is important. Is it for you or is it for other people, or do you want to sell it?
Yeah.
Or it's all those different kind of purposes. What is your purpose? If it's for your own memory, you can take it any which way.
and as far as travel, when I talk about travel, it's usually because they just taken it for themselves or show their friends. But
Yeah. All right, Thomas, is there some information that you can leave with us so everyone can contact you, maybe to get some lessons from you or things like that?
I'm working on I'm almost done, and I'm working on an ebook on travel photography, but it's tips.
Oh, wow.
And I go through line, and I go through color. I don't go through all the elements of art. I just want to give somebody a basic thing they could go out and improve their photography, because that's the whole thing. But if you make it too technical, I talked about art more than the technical side, then I want to make it easy. Okay. And the technical side, operation of your camera, there's all sorts of stuff on the internet on that. So you should learn how to use your camera. And if you have the smartphone, if you want to take more creative pictures, you should look into the apps that they have for controlling shutter speed and aperture. And they have other apps too. And you could do slow motion. There's all sorts of stuff. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thomas, thanks very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate the interview.
Thank you for listening. Check out the episode notes for more information.
What about Vietnam?
Don't forget to subscribe, rate and review, and stay tuned for more fun adventures in Vietnam.
What about Vietnam?